It's the preview edition of Locked On Hawkeyes. Myself and LeShun Daniels talking about the Hawkeyes as they prepare for their matchup against Illinois. Number 2 Iowa women go down at the hands of Kansas State. And we make our picks for the week presented by FanDuel.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Come in. I'm Trent Condon. He's LeShun Daniels, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. While you're there, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Well, LeShun, it looked pretty easy last week against Rutgers, at least in the fourth quarter of the game, as Iowa pulls away for the 22-0 victory. Slow start, Deacon Hill starting 1 for 5, and it felt like more of the same. 3-0 at the half, 6-0, and then they exploded in the fourth quarter. But even before that, you saw during the second quarter, before the ill-advised interception late in the first half, Deacon Hill, for the first time, started to get into a little bit of a rhythm. And boy, you got a quarterback completing passes. How different your offense could look, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, obviously, he started off slow. Obviously kept battling out there, and ended up providing some good offense for the Hawks. Was able to move the football, get them in scoring position multiple times. So we saw it plenty of times in the first half, and then just kind of built upon that momentum in the second half, which allowed Iowa to control the game, play Iowa style of football, and complete that shutout last week against Rutgers. So yeah, it was very, very encouraging to see Deacon's growth last week, and we saw it start. I think a little bit in that Northwestern game. Obviously, there was times where it made some mistakes, and they had some things they had to clean up there. But you could see, like, okay, they kind of have a plan for him. They kind of see some things that he's comfortable with, and I feel like they leaned on that a little bit more last week against Rutgers, and hopefully that's going to carry on the last 2 weeks of the season.
A little bit more touch. Saw that play where he was rolling out to the right, had the underneath guy, instead waited for the second guy to clear, took the shot instead of getting the 40-yard gain, getting the 15-yard gain, just those little things and getting a little bit better. You'd like to see at times still going with a little less on the fastball on some of those crossing routes and the like, but overall, certainly feeling a lot more comfortable. Is it something, LeShun, that you see that is sustainable, that this is something that we're going to see continued improvement in the pass game?
Yeah, for sure. Because I feel like the biggest thing was he was spreading the football around. It wasn't like he was just locking on to one guy, and one guy just feasted um last week, and even the week prior to that. I feel like he's spreading the ball around, whether it's to receivers, tight ends, running backs, everyone's getting involved in the passing game. And that's something that you can continue to build upon. It's a lot harder to have that sustained success when you are just kind of keyed on one guy. Even if you have a really good football player out there, it's a lot harder to key on that type of success, because defenses can typically and will try to take away your most effective option. But if you can spread the football around, get other guys involved, that is something that can be sustainable. And when you look at good offenses, even average to good offenses in college football or in the NFL, those are some things that they do extremely well.
All right, we saw 3 running backs back out there and want to get your perspective on that. You worked in dual and sometimes 3 running back sets at Iowa. What's it like trying to get in a rhythm? We get Caleb Johnson back out there, which is great to see. We know how talented certainly Caleb is, but him, Jazion Patterson, of course, LaShawn Williams, you get 3 running backs out there. Is it difficult to get in a rhythm as a running back when, the likelihood is you're probably only going to see at best, 7 to 10 carries in a game?
Yeah, it can be. It definitely can be a challenge. But I think as you go through practices and you go through the season, you start to get adjusted of what that tempo looks like. it kind of starts in practice during training camp. You kind of get an idea of what that potential rotation may look like on obviously a much smaller scale because you're not going through 60 plays and a regular team session and practice, but you do kind of get a feel of okay, this is how I expect the running back rotation to be. These are the kind of situations I expect myself to be in. So when those situations come up, I expect myself to be ready and ready to have success. But running backs, they love to be the guys, touching the football 20 plus times every single week. But we know that that doesn't really happen as much in today's football. And a lot of times, running backs are going to have their specific roles or they're going to have their specific situation that they're going to be in. So that you just have to be ready for those situations that arise. And I think the backs have done a great job with it last week. I think every single one of them went over 50 rushing yards, which is really good. Obviously, big credit to the offensive line. And yeah, I feel like they found some sort of rhythm, in that second half. We didn't see much of Sean in that second half, but I feel like right now their rotation feels pretty good. They're all having success with it, and that's what's going to help the football team moving forward. Because again, those guys, all the running backs in the room, are going to be having to be relied upon. Should something happen, and one of them has to step up. So getting all your guys involved is a good thing. Even though as a running back, you want to be the person touching the ball 20 plus times, but anything to keep you guys fresh and ready to continue to lay their hammer in the fourth quarter is going to be a big help for the football team.
So, what other direction I want to go with you offensively, and that is Caleb Brown. So, he transfers in from Ohio State. I am maintained at the time. Look, he didn't play a ton, but they maintained his redshirt status at Ohio State. He just played the 4 games and could still redshirt. You play in that wide receiver room as a true freshman. You got some juice to you, and then we finally got to see it on the field. I mean, there's just something different. You see why this guy was a top 100 and national recruit, why everybody in the country wanted him. There's some juice to his game. He's not a big guy, at least height, stature-wise, but he's physical. He can work with the ball in his hands. They used him in the jet sweep game. I mean, a weapon like that in the Iowa offense and getting the ball in his hands, it was great to see that.
Yeah, I think they actually have something there. I think they really do have something there with Caleb. And getting the football in his hands is going to be a pretty big deal. I mean, you saw him both rushing the ball, catching the football. Like, he is a weapon out of on the offense, and those are the type of guys that you want to make sure that they get their touches during a football game. Because again, we've talked about it before on this podcast, but a lot of times with successful offenses, they have the ability to create explosive plays or just to make something happen where it looks like there might be nothing there. And he has that type of ability. And you mentioned it, when you're a top recruit, there's a reason why you were a top recruit. It may not always pan out that you have a great college career, but at least early on, like scouts and colleges, they see something about you that makes you think that person may be an impact player. And we've seen it a little bit with Caleb, and I'm hoping that they continue to build upon that. I think Coach Ferentz has said that he's been doing a great job of practice, and then with the opportunities he's been given in the games, he's been doing a great job with that. So I think they really did find something there, and that can be a piece that they can really start to hone in on and focus on, because with the Iowa offense, we're starving for explosive plays any way that we can get them. And when you look at him play football, that seems to be a player that they can focus on to get those explosives.
We're going to talk about Caleb Brown getting out of the doghouse because he was in there. I mean, the rumors were that he fell asleep in a practice or in a meeting and sat out one of those games, came back, getting out of the doghouse at the University of Iowa, playing for Kirk Ferentz. We're going to get LeShun's perspective on that one. I'm excited for this. We're also going to talk about senior day, what it's like there at Kinnick Stadium, going out for the final time and playing for a division title. We'll do that as we continue here. This is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of having to worry about battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, it's just you. You pick more or less on a 2 to 6 player stat projection and watch the winnings roll in. With basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, a league created specifically for combo projections that include 2 or more players from different sports or different leagues. For example, you can take LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made and receptions in the game. More or less, Steph Curry, 29 points. Joker, 10 rebounds. That's how you do it. That's how you work. PrizePicks, it's super easy to play and simple. You can make picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals, also easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege with the code LockedOnCollege for that first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Trent and LeShun back with you once again here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. Your team every day. That's what we do here on the Locked On Network. We'll be back with you tomorrow evening with an instant reaction podcast after the Iowa game against Illinois. Before we talk about the matchup, senior day, all the pomp and circumstance around it, LeShun, I mentioned Caleb Brown. He was in the doghouse. I think we all saw that. Working your way out of the Kirk Ferentz doghouse. You were never in there, were you?
No.
Okay,
I was never in the doghouse.
But you had teammates, you had dudes that got in there. What's it take to get out?
Yeah. It's a great question. And to be honest, I think a lot of it, there's a lot of things that go into it. Obviously, like they're most of the time they're not just gonna just put you in the doghouse for one mistake or anything like that. Usually it's sustained things that kind of built up to that point, and you're never like outright, like coach would never like outright say like, yeah, you're in the doghouse or whatever, but you just kind of you get that feeling as like maybe like reps get shifted away from you, and people might like the coaches might be a little bit harder on you more than usual. But I think the things that go into it is really just getting back to uh doing the little things right, and being consistent in that, and whether that is making sure that you're on top of your body weight, whatever your goal body weight may be. You're on top of your schooling. You're on top of being in the meeting rooms. You're on top of your focus within practice, and all of that builds up, and that stuff matters. It matters to the coaching staff, and it matters to the player, because like if all those things are taken care of, usually it's gonna provide that positive performance on the football field. So if you're slacking off in one of those areas, and usually if you're slacking off on one area, it's carrying over to a number of different areas, that can really get you in a position where you don't want to be in, where you're losing reps, where you thought you may be in a bigger role. And then on top of that, then you still have to go out and you still have to perform on Saturdays. And there's like mistakes, and there's getting like beat where the other guy's just better than you, and that stuff happens. But when it comes to you making a bunch of mental mistakes and things that are hurting the team, like those are things that Coach Ferentz doesn't like at all. I mean, especially like as a running back, they don't want you messing up on blitz pickup protections, right? You don't want to get your quarterback killed because you weren't locked in on who you're supposed to pick up. And then you definitely don't want to be fumbling the football. We've seen that multiple times throughout Coach Ferentz's tenure with guys fumbling the football. Like those are just some little things on when you're actually on the field that can minimize your reps. So yeah, it's I think there's a lot of things that play into getting out of the doghouse and staying out of the doghouse. So it's never just one particular instance, but all those little things together, they matter, and they really matter to Coach Ferentz.
So on Saturday, senior day, That's its own aspect. You run out of the field, you see your parents there. That's emotional and different kind of emotions than you want, certainly going into a football game. Then you couple it with playing for a division title. You guys had the same in 2015. And something I've talked about a lot this week, LeShun, this is the final time, at least with the future of the Big Ten, that I was going to play for a division title in Kinnick Stadium. This will be the last time you have a chance to get a trophy outside of a rivalry trophy, a Big Ten trophy in Kinnick Stadium. Because look, if Iowa finishes first and second and qualifies for the Big Ten championship game, they'll give you a trophy for that. That's not going to happen going forward. So it's got to be a cool moment. I was there in 2004 when they clinched against Wisconsin. Just a great day on that one. Was there, of course, 2002, but that was up in Minnesota, taking down the goalposts in that one. And then when you guys did it in 2015 against Purdue on a cold, snowy day, it's a cool moment, certainly for the fans. What's it like for the team, knowing that Kirk loves to talk about the rivalry trophies, a Big Ten trophy that you're playing for?
Yeah, yeah. Um, for starters, we know that competing for a Big Ten title is one of the goals that is laid out for the team every single year. That's where we expect to be. We expect to be in position to compete for a title. And now that that opportunity is in front of us, everyone knows like how big of a deal it is. Everyone knows how big of a game it is. Anytime a trophy is on the line, the entire staff, the entire building knows how important that this game is. But no one's gonna, change the way we've been preparing up to this point. We're gonna continue to do the same things that we've been doing up to this point in time in the year when it comes to preparation. But Coach Ferentz is going to make sure that the staff and make sure that the players understand that um, this is an opportunity to win a trophy. It's an opportunity to clinch the West, and it's an opportunity to make to the Big Ten title game and compete in Indy for a title. So everybody around the building knows that it's a big deal. And when you combine that with the fact that it is going to be senior day and it's the seniors' last opportunity going out there and playing in Kinnick in front of your home fans, it's definitely going to be an emotional time, and emotions are going to be running high. Everyone's going to try to stay like cool, calm, and collected, but we know that if I'm a younger guy, underclassman, I'm trying to play as hard as I can and make sure that I'm on top of everything that I'm doing, so the seniors can have the send off that they deserve, especially if they've been put in a position again to compete for a Big Ten title. Back in 2015, we had a great senior leadership group that did a lot of great things for their football team, especially in their time at Iowa, and especially in that 2015 year. And I think the underclassmen are going to feel the same way about this senior class and everything that's going into it this weekend. So everyone knows how important of a game this is, and you're really going to try to treat this like it is a rivalry game. Like you have to have that extra focus in your preparation to make sure that when you go out there on Saturday, that you don't leave anything to chance. And if you get beat, you get beat because they were the better team, not because of your preparation.
You also, of course, saw the news as everybody did. Cooper DeJean out for the season, getting injured in practice. Saw some people, well, why is he even practicing? Well, if you want Iowa football to be what they are defensively, you got to practice tackling. You got to practice. And I just kind of chuckled at some of those comments out there, regardless of how important you're going to practice when you play football at Iowa. But losing Cooper, it's certainly going to be impactful. And as we look at Illinois, a team that threw for 500 yards last week, Isaiah Williams is one of the best wide receivers in the Big Ten. They got a couple of really good, talented wide receivers. This changes things for Phil Parker.
Yeah, it definitely does. And we kind of touched on it a little bit last week when you asked, why not use Cooper a little bit more on offense? Like we know how important he is to the defense, but we know how exciting he is with the football in his hands. But we know exactly how valuable he is to that defense. I mean, last year against Nebraska, he goes out early in that game, and Trey Palmer again has an absolute career day. And we, as good as Coach Parker does with the DBs and does with the defense, when you have an All-American type player. That's going to be pretty tough player to replace. And so losing him is definitely going to be a big blow to the defense. But not that it's better that he got hurt, but it's better that it happened during practice. So it gave, the coaches, it gave the players at least some time, a few days to actually prepare um mentally for, okay, we're not going to have him. These are the changes that we're going to make, both in the special teams and on defense, so we can go out there and be ready to, put out a good performance. And I think Coach Parker is going to have the DBs ready. It's going to be time for, some of the younger guys are going to have to step up. You're going to have to go out there and you're going to have to play big boy football, because the team is going to be relying on you, because you don't want to put it to chance. You don't want to drop a game or be in a position where now you have to go to Nebraska and now you have to go and be on the road and try to win the Big Ten West there. You want to do it here. You want to do it at home. And it's not going to be an easy task, especially the way that Illinois has been playing offensively, and the fact that they are still trying to compete to make it to a bowl game, sitting at 5 wins. So it's definitely going to be a challenge, and missing Cooper is going to be huge. But that said, I think with the extra bit of prep time, Coach Parker and the defense, they're going to have a plan in place to at least try to minimize as much damage as possible with having Cooper out. And now the offense, you're going to have to step up. Talk about complimentary football. You're going to have to step up this week and, play some good old-fashioned Iowa football and, basically control the football game from start to finish.
One final thing as we look at the Illinois matchup and everything that goes along with it, there's a guy defensively you definitely have to key on, and that is Jerzon Johnny Newton, defensive tackle. He is 6'2", 285, all right. He is a monster, though. He is so fast, so athletic for a guy his size. He moves, he disrupts, he gets to the quarterback, he does everything. In the Iowa scheme, in the Iowa system, working against a defensive tackle that is this good, what do you anticipate, either blocking-wise or just schematically, that Iowa's going to do to combat a defensive tackle that talented?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy at all, especially if you're going like a traditional zone running. If you're going inside outside zone, you're trying to have centers reach one techniques, or you're trying to have your guards reach 3 techniques. It's never an easy task, especially when D lineman is that good, that athletic. So you're going to have to be a little bit creative. So I would anticipate to maybe see a wham block where you essentially leave that guy, and one of the guards or maybe even a tight end comes and hits that D lineman on the side, to just put your blocking team in a more advantageous position. Again, you can use the gap schemes, because gap schemes plays are naturally designed for advantageous leverage, because again you're blocking down on those guys instead of trying to use your athleticism to reach them and get them moved out of a hole. So those are some things that I can anticipate seeing from them in the run game, and then in the pass game, they'll have I'm sure some type of slides and protections that are going to help whoever happens to be blocked on that guy in the pass game to help pass protection. So those are some little things that I would expect to see wrinkle wise, and to help minimize the damage that he can cause on the football game. Because again, the offense is going to have to step up. They're going to have to control the football, and letting a defensive tackle wreck your night is a surefire way not to be able to do that.
We will talk a little bit more about that game. We will make our picks presented by FanDuel coming up here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast, your team every day across the Locked On network. Picks presented by FanDuel, and the number 2 women's team goes down. We'll do that as we continue here, Locked On Hawkeyes. Now it's time for your game changer of the week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Much like Deacon Hill, Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Deacon Hill, his emergence that we saw a week ago, incredibly important for this Iowa football team, what they are and what they certainly can be going forward throughout the course of this season. Athletic Brewing has changed things with their non-alcoholic brews. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Their brews are great tasting, award-winning, and beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. They're fit for all times, watching a big game or your kid's game, tackling a workout, or just tackling work. No hangovers ever with Athletic Brewing. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or you can buy them online. athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers, use the code LOCKEDON. That's going to get you 15% off your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. Back with you here on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We'll make our picks here in a moment. Do want to mention Iowa women falling last night at the hands of Kansas State at home, a K-State team that got them a year ago in the middle. Absolute very difficult matchup with an All-American type center from K-State, but it was a very difficult game to watch. It was clunky. It was ugly. Caitlin Clark really struggled with her shot. 2 of 16 from 3, 9 of 32 from the field. You could tell from the get-go, it was off. And the loss in its own right, not overly concerning. Like, Kansas State's going to be a tournament team. K-State's a very solid program, but losing it at home, that was a little bit of a question. But secondly, on the night that Caitlin Clark didn't have it, and you could see early that that was going to be the case, nobody else stepping up. Now, got going a little bit in the fourth quarter, got a couple of moments. They had the lead late in that quarter, but just never couldn't sustain and hold on to get the victory. Really, the only outstanding performance was Molly Davis in the second half of the game when she scored all 10 of her points. But that's the concern. On the nights that Caitlin Clark is not playing at a high level, if she's not going, who's going to step up with the team? And we certainly didn't see much of anybody in that one. All right, we got LeShun back in here. Let's get our picks for the week presented by FanDuel. And LeShun, 5-0. What was that? Yeah. Look at you over there. I did not go 5-0 last week. You're dominating this competition again this year. You're seeing it well. College football has been a struggle for me throughout the course of this year, but you know what? You go right back to the well. They'll be singing the national anthem all over the country, and I'll be firing away at the game. So let's get into it this week. We kick things off in our pack of games this week. Iowa State, they're at home with Texas coming in. The Longhorns are favored by 7.5.
Yeah. I think this is going to be an interesting game. It sets up to be one of those weird late season Iowa State home games that just weird all the way around it. And I think with Texas losing Jonathan Brooks is going to be huge for them. And because of that, I feel like Iowa State is going to go out there. They're going to continue playing good football the way they have been over the last month and some change. And they're going to go ahead and they're going to cover. I don't know if they win this one, but they'll definitely be able to keep it close all the way throughout.
Heard something interesting. Quinn Ewers a year ago against the 3-3-5 stack against Iowa State threw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. They run a lot of quarters coverage off of that. That is where Quinn Ewers has been his best this year. On the other side, Texas defensively runs a lot of quarters. That's something that Rocco Beck has struggled. Because of that, I'm going to take Texas. I'm going to lay the points here. Give me the Longhorns. Pick number 2, the SEC. Well, two of the teams are not playing a crap FCS team. No, they're actually playing a big boy. It's Georgia going to Tennessee. Bulldogs are favored by 10. I'm up first on this one. We've seen it throughout the course of the year. When Georgia has somebody attention, they play well. I think they will have certainly their attention on Tennessee this week. I'm going to lay it with the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I've been on the Bulldogs bandwagon for a while now, and let's keep it rolling because they're playing phenomenal football. Every team that they've come across, they've just dismantled them and really have played their style of football, done whatever they want. And I feel like that's really going to continue. So give me the Dogs.
Same side on that one. It's the Sunflower Showdown. Kansas playing host to Kansas State. The Wildcats come in as 9.5-point favorites. You are up first in this one.
Yeah, this should be a fun game. Should be interesting. I like the way Kansas State has been playing over the last month of football. Really have been really, really strong defensively. And they've been putting up a lot of points on the offensive side of the football, where Kansas, they they've been hot and cold a bunch, even on really both sides of the football, both offensively and defensively. Even though this is, hey, it's a rivalry game, and there's a lot at stake just because of that. Um, I like the way that Kansas State has been playing, and I think that their style of football is going to continue. So give me Kansas State.
I'm going to take Kansas. Looks like Jason Bean's going to be back in this one. I will take the underdog at home in a rivalry game, getting more than touchdown. Give me the Jayhawks plus the 9.5. I love this game. This is one of my locks of the week, certainly. It is Washington. They're getting 2.5 against Oregon State. Beavers playing in Corvallis for the final time as a member of the Pac-12 as we know it. Washington has skated by, not playing great football really since the Oregon game, even a week ago against Utah. You can run the football against Washington. What does Oregon State do? They run the football here. Give me the Beavers minus the 2.5.
Yeah, I'm on that Beavers train too. I do not like the way that Washington has been playing. Ever since that Oregon game, they like you said, they've skated by and have lucked out several times. Where hey, the offense has been holding it down, but the defense has kind of been, I think, disappointing them for a little bit now. And with the way that Oregon State plays football, the way that they run the football, the way that they do a good job of just continually keeping their offensive positions to score, and how well they play out defensively, I think that's going to be enough for them to cover this and even potentially pull this one out.
Same side with the Beavers minus the 2.5. We wrap things up. Illinois getting 3 against Iowa. It was 3.5 most of the week. It's tricked down a little bit to the 3. Illini getting the field goal. You get to go first.
Yeah. Huge game. Big game. Senior day in Kinnick. Emotions are going to be running high. I mean, we saw Coach Ferentz last week in emotions in the post game, and we know that that's going to continue this week. It's continued in the building, leading up to the game, and it's going to continue tomorrow throughout the rest of the team. So I really like Iowa in this one. I really do. I think they're going to go out. They're going to play at a high level, even with all the emotions surrounding this game and really what is at stake. I think Iowa's going to be up for the challenge, and they're going to go out and they're going to play extremely well. So give me the Hawks.
Going with the Hawks. I'm going to stay with it, and hopefully I'm proven wrong once again. Give me Illinois and the points here. Prove me wrong, Hawks. And let's get a victory and a cover on top of it coming up on Saturday. With that, those are our picks of the week presented by FanDuel. 5 picks every week. We'll see if LeShun can go 5-0. And certainly with the Iowa side of things, let's hope that is the case there. LeShun, big week. And next week, of course, the quick turnaround with Black Friday. We will talk about that one. We'll figure out the schedule next week, and I'll be texting you early and figure it out with Thanksgiving around the corner, and we'll get a podcast out there. Thanks, LeShun. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yep, sounds great. Go Hawks.